Football Show with Burger King. Watch live at 5 p.m. weekdays on YouTube. Join the conversation on 0808 17 17 700. Talking Scottish football first.
Tonight, talking Scottish football with the former Celtic, Hibs, Ayr United, Sheffield United. Why did I start this? There's so many. Andy Walker is in the house. Evening, Andy.
Always a pleasure, Paul.
And to your left is Mark Guidi, Scotland's top journalist and the former president of the Scottish Football Writers Association. And we took him in recent years. Mark, I'm just thinking this time last week we were saying, Celtic were the favourites, followed by Hearts, followed by Rangers. What's the latest after the weekend? Hearts winning, Rangers winning, Celtic losing.
Well, according to the bookmakers, Paul, Hearts are now favourites for the title. Okay. Rangers second favourites. Celtic have slipped to third after the defeat at Tannadice. I reserve the right to change my mind, and I'm going for Hearts now. I thought when Celtic beat Motherwell last week, they would go on a run. I thought they would hunt Hearts down. That's proven not to be the case. And Paul, I would say now, they've all got 2 games before the split. Hearts 2 games, Livingston away and Motherwell at home. I would confidently say if Hearts win those 2 games and go into the split on 72 points, Hearts will win the title. Hearts will be champions if they win their next 2 games, for sure.
Andy, what do you feel about that? And then I want to find out about Hearts because you were there at the weekend. I saw you on Sky.
I was there at the weekend, and the thing that struck me was just the sheer tension and the nerves about every attacking move that didn't come off, every pass that went astray, every refereeing decision that didn't go their way. They were so angry. Yeah. And I do think they've got a number of players who can become potential match winners. They had one of very unorthodox to see McEntee come up with a header. And I think the other big thing about being there on the day is the sheer lift that Lawrence Shankland gave them when he came on about 10 minutes into the second half. The whole place felt a bit better. He's the type of guy that can link up. He's got deft touches. He can have shots at goal. And that's what he did. And he gave all of them a lift. And I think him coming on made a big difference because it was a sustained level of pressure that Hearts got. So I certainly agree that they're favourites at the moment.
Mark, there's an irony there that boyhood Rangers fan, Lawrence Shankland, whom Rangers wanted last summer, if it was going to be Barry Ferguson, he could well lead Hearts to the title in just a couple of months' time. And they've come through it's been a rocky spell for them, obviously beaten heavily by Rangers just a month ago, but they've come through. And you reckon, they are in the box seat now. And that's really interesting. The next 2 games, if they can win them, if they can get their run going, then they'll win it.
I think it'd be very hard to stop them, Paul. They would go in feeling really good about themselves, 5 to go. By the way, the fixtures after the split, Celtic, Rangers and Hearts, no guarantee that they'll win 4 or 5. I mean, they might struggle to win 2, all of them, because they'll be so tough. But that point you make, and Andy mentions about Lawrence Shankland, for Hearts still to be top of the table, considering they didn't have him for 8 weeks. Their talisman, Cammy Devlin, biggest part of their engine room. Stuart Finley's been out as well for a few weeks. Kent's going to be missing with suspension, but to still be top of the table, and bearing in mind, Paul, when you think about it, they've been top of the table since week 5. Yeah. This is not by luck. This is a good team. This is a really good team who know how to dig in, who know how to get results, and can now see the finishing line. And I liked Derek McInnes's interview on Saturday, Andy, after the game. He says, I challenge my players, let's be the best at set pieces for the last 8 games, and they want to go with a set piece on Saturday. So they're taking just wee different things that he's added in. Paul, we spoke a lot in January about it could be whoever gets the best number 9 could win the title. Shankland's coming back with 7 games to go. Celtic, for 18 months now, for 3 windows, the negligence when you look at it now, Paul, of Celtic's transfer windows is absolutely shocking. For a club like Celtic not to have a number 9 worthy of the jersey in 3 transfer windows is absolutely shocking. And Rangers have Chermiti, but I heard the stat on Saturday night. Chermiti has failed to score in 28 games.
I heard it.
For Rangers.
28.
He's failed to score
30...
in 4
games or something.
Yeah, but by the way, listen, he's popped up with big goals. But when you look at the number 9s at the club, there is no doubt the best number 9 in the country at the moment is Lawrence Shankland, and he plays for Hearts.
I think so. And when you see the Celtic starting 11 on Sunday, and no gripe with Iheanacho, he's a good player, but it's the fact that you had to turn to the free transfer pool of players because you were either unwilling or unable to get a decent striker in the last couple of windows. It's truly remarkable that a club like that, who supposedly have, a lot of ambition to do well in Europe and all the rest of it, and just in the last 2 windows, go and get someone, and they haven't done it. And then you see Iheanacho, and it's a free transfer. It's astonishing.
There is no out-and-out striker, is there? There's no firm striker at Celtic. Chavanchara's been in and out. It's unbelievable what they did. What about Rangers then? Because that was a huge win at the weekend, Andy.
It's a huge win, and they also won by 3 goals. And I think when you look at the goal difference now, the fact that Rangers are 8 goals better off than Celtic, I think it could be important. It's so tight. There's only a couple of points between them, but even if Rangers were to draw and Celtic win one, Rangers are still above Celtic because of their goal difference. Unless Celtic are winning by 8 goals, but that's not going to happen with the way they're playing. So I think it could come into play, the goal difference.
I think the great thing now for Danny Rule and for Rangers, Paul, is they don't need a favour. The title's in their hands, which is, it's all you can really ask for, considering this season, how it's gone, the ups and downs. It's been topsy-turvy. So with 7 games to go, Rangers win their 7 games, they're champions. They're going to be champions. It's a great position to be in, considering a lot of us felt that after drawing 2-2 with Celtic 3 weeks ago, that was it. They were out of it, too many drop points. But those wee points away from home, although they've been criticised for not winning, and rightly so, Livingston, Hibs, Motherwell, but those points they've avoided defeats. They're just picking up a wee point here and there. But 5 points separating the 3 teams with 7 games to go. It's absolutely terrific. But Hearts, they're in the box seat for a reason, Paul. They know what they're doing. Daz
is on, a Rangers fan. He's called 0808 17 17 700. He's a bit worried, though, that the goals didn't come from the strikers. It wasn't Nadiri. It wasn't. Okay, Majowska, when he came on, got a goal that was chalked off. Some Rangers fans think it was wrong. And not Chermiti. Yet again, Andy, he's not scoring enough goals.
Yeah, we've said this a number of times over the course of the season. We know that he's got such good qualities, but he lacks that, just that happy knack of, I'd like to see him score, sliding in at the back post just for a one-touch finish. Some of the goals he scores are absolutely outstanding. You only have to think about the double that he got against Celtic at Ibrox. But just that knack of finishing off a really good move, getting in front of a striker, one-touch finish. I know he got a lovely header against Hearts, I think, when he got his hat-trick. But it's remarkable that he's played so many games and hasn't scored. And it's something that I think he has to work on.
Rangers fans, what are you thinking? You know the number 0808 17 17 700. We'll talk Scotland shortly as they gather for the games, the double header. Japan at Hampden on Saturday, 5 o'clock, isn't it?
Yep.
And then off to the new Everton ground, which you've been to, Mark, I believe, haven't you?
Yeah, it's great. Great setup. Very fortunate that Davy Moyes invited me to his box. And the great day. It was Everton against Aston Villa. It was 0-0. A game to forget, but a fantastic stadium, and to look to see what Davy has done, particularly again over the past 2 or 3 weeks. The away record is almost second to none since he took over. Yeah, wow. I mean they absolutely pulverised Chelsea. They're doing it without Grealish, one of their best players, and they've put themselves in a great position for the top 5. Davy Moyes doing really well. Delighted for him.
Danny Rule doing well. Rangers were 13 points behind Hearts when he came in, and what was that, October time he came? Now Rangers are 3 points behind the Jam Tarts. Danny Rule, then, this is what he thought about the win at the weekend.
A great performance over 95 minutes. We spoke about this result and performance today. I think we saw both, and this is what makes me really happy today to see my team perform like this.
Yeah, really happy, and the manner of the victory really pleased him.
Yeah, I think general we want to see goals. I think this is always great. As a manager, I also see clean sheets. I must say this. I think this is the only small thing today after the 2-0, that we bring this team back for a short moment. But general, how we played with a lot of intensity. We were very aggressive against the ball. Good positioning in possession. Yeah, general, it was a good performance. I said this to my group that we have to improve 2 things, but this is then our part or my part to show them this. But general, a 4-1 is, a small statement, especially with the goal difference as well. The last 2 cup finals we won, and now we have 7 to go, and I think this is the way.
Mark, journalistically, do you like this? It's been saying 9 cup finals, 8 cup finals, 7.
Yeah, I mean, and it's so true,
Yeah.
Paul. It's the only focus that Rangers have got is a title. It's the biggest prize in the land. They've not won the title for 5 years, only one title victory in the last 12, 13, 14, whatever it may be. And considering where they were when Danny Rule took over, as we say, it's a credit to him. They've had a couple of bumps in the road, but what's been impressive about Rangers, you look at the table, Paul, they've only lost 2 games out of 31.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite incredible. Okay, they've had too many draws. However, they're still in the hunt. You know, they're in there. They deserve credit for that. The Rangers board deserve credit because they really backed Danny Rule in the January window, really backed him. And they're very, very close to all paying off. But as we say, Hearts are going to take a bit of stopping. They genuinely are, but still many twists and turns to come.
Who's got the stronger squad, Hearts or Rangers? What do you
Well,
think?
everyone's got so many injuries, but when you come through the difficult period that Hearts have had, I think Mark mentioned it earlier, when they didn't have Shankland, when they didn't have Cammy Devlin. Devlin came back and played from the start of the weekend, and you could see the influence that he had on others before he went off, I think, with about half an hour to go. And then Shankland coming back. So I think the Hearts, I think the last, 4 home games now, they've won 1-0.
No.
It's a great habit.
Yeah.
Just to get that one goal,
Yeah.
just to have someone who comes up with a big moment and it spreads throughout the team. And the fact that they keep a clean sheet, they've got a keeper who makes big saves, they deny the opposition a lot of chances. There's something to be said for winning games 1-0.
Mark?
Yeah, it's a great habit to have, and for Derek McInnes, you know, clean sheets, nicking a goal, and then when you get that lead, you defend it.
Yeah.
You know, and there'll be scary times, particularly into the last few minutes of game. There's a bit of anxiety in the crowd coming from the stands, but yeah, you've just got to give lots of credit to Hearts, Paul. Like I say, it's not a fluke. They've been on top of the table since week 5, and nobody has been able to shift them.
That's September into October,
Yeah.
I would imagine. Yeah.
Yep.
Wow. So they've got, I heard you saying earlier, they've got Livy away and then Motherwell at home just before it against your old club. What were the fans like then? So Peter Grant said earlier in the season, I noticed it was a bit of psychology. He said, yeah, I think the Hearts fans, very passionate, but they'll get nervous at this stage of the season.
Well, there's nothing to compare it with.
Yeah.
Hearts have been nowhere near the title for so long. And I sensed that, I mean, every misplaced pass, even a refereeing decision that went against them that was just, you know, it was a free kick in the middle of the park. And you can just sense the tension, the nerves, everyone's on edge. And you should have seen the celebrations at the end when the players went round with the manager. It was sheer relief as well as celebrating the fact that they'd got 3 points on the Saturday. Rangers were still to play. And obviously Celtic were still to play the following day. So they had their job done. And I think there's every game is so difficult. And we've said it before. Who would have expected Rangers to go to Livingston and drop a couple of points? That's a remarkable result. And I don't think you can take any game for granted at the moment.
08, 17, 700. We heard from Danny Rule. It's contrasting. It ping pongs in this game, doesn't it? It really does. So, because Rangers had a tough spell early in March, they've come back in. Hearts had a tough time. They're back. Well, they're at the top and they've stayed there. But what about Martin O'Neill? His magic has been there in the 2 spells this season, and obviously the last time 20 odd years ago. But the luck, or whatever you want to call it, ran out certainly. Meantime, on Sunday up at Tannadice. This was Martin O'Neill speaking afterwards.
I thought we had a lot of possession in the first half. We seemed to be camped outside their penalty area, weren't able to penetrate the team, and very much so in the second half. We lost our way completely.
Andy, they lost their way completely. He's really honest.
Yeah, lost their way and didn't look as though they were going to be threatening. It's all very well having a lot of possession, but just a lack of a cutting edge. It was a blow, I think, to lose Shvanchara. Yeah. I just think the state of the pitch, and obviously it's no excuse. We were talking about it last week. I think when you see a pitch like that, and I've got to say, I was a bit surprised that Celtic tried to play as much football as they tried. It's awful pitch. And I thought they might have tried to fight for the second ball once it goes into that last third and play your football from there. But no, United, I think, were strong, physically very strong. And for the second time this season at Tannadice, Celtic couldn't cope.
Doesn't happen often. Let's hear a bit more from the manager.
Well, I think that the first goal was going to be vital in the game. We probably didn't create enough, and maybe didn't adjust, particularly in the second half, to conditions. But that's taking nothing away from Dundee United. They deserve to win.
They sure did. Mark, there was no sign. You know, Dundee United were 2 up in the 95th minute just the week before and ended up 2-2.
Yeah.
You didn't get the sense that Celtic, who normally would come, threatened till the end. Did you feel that they were going to come back?
No, there wasn't a good feeling about it. I don't think they did adjust to the surface. I think that probably that's certainly this season. That's probably the most times that they've gone long. Sinasala wasn't taking chances at the back with the bumpy surface, and of course they take a chance at the back the week before, and they concede the goal to Motherwell. So you talk about learning lessons, but I think when you do that, Andy will know he's been a centre forward. When you're playing Iheanacho, he's playing him because he's the best at holding the ball up. Chivinchara wasn't available through illness. So you're saying, you know what, we're going to go long, get a flick on, flick out wide, or get runners going beyond the number 9. They were having none of that. He wasn't holding anything in. It was wee flicks here and there. It was just very, very disjointed from Celtic. And when United got the first goal, Paul, it's not like Maynard Brewer was pulling off save after save. He's hardly the thing to do. So you could say that's kind of been coming for Celtic, that kind of result. That's taken nothing away from them when they've fought to get last minute winners or equalisers, etc., etc. But you could see it coming, and it just goes back, without making excuses for the performance on Sunday, which was unacceptable from a Celtic point of view. You just look at the standard of player, the lack of quality in key positions to win games of football. You think back to the Celtic team a year ago, 2 years ago. I always thought Celtic were terrific because they had great partnerships. So you think of Alistair Johnson and Cooney and down the right hand side,
Just
and
last
you think
season,
of Taylor and Maeda and down the left hand side. So you think, that, Carter Vickers was solid with Scales. So I know there's been a wee bit of injuries as well, but they've lost too much quality. And by the way, some of the numbers that they've brought in, Paul, they had to sell, so I get that. But they've not replaced the standard of player that they've lost by anywhere. And it's always hard to replace light by light if you're selling at 15, 20 million. But you've still got to get a certain standard in. For whatever reason, the last 3 windows, Paul, you can't dress it up. It's been totally unacceptable. Brendan Rodgers predicted it in the summer, and he was lambasted for it, saying he was selfish and he was causing problems and this and that.
Self-serving.
But when you look at it, by the way, you can still argue that there should have been enough there to win the league, perhaps. Sure. However, it doesn't excuse the fact that in the transfer windows, it's been totally unacceptable.
0808 17 17 700. That's where we're going. We're going to go to Gary straight after the break.
The Go Radio Football Show with Burger King.
Straight on the satellite link, we're going to the Gorbals in Glasgow. It's Gary. Gary, thanks for holding on. Good evening.
Evening, Paul. Evening, lads.
Hi, Gary.
Gary,
Hi,
you
Gary.
could just come in the studio. We're going to have a live audience soon. You must come in, okay? There's no travel expenses.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
All right. Oh, Gary, what do you think? Because you love Newcastle as well, so, right,
Yeah.
over to Gary. It's a no-moan zone, but it'll be difficult for you, Newcastle and Celtic.
Yeah, basically, as I say, I had an absolute nightmare in
Yeah.
Sunday by 2, 3 o'clock. I was kind of fed up of football, to be honest. It's really difficult because I was going to come on last night, but if I'm being honest, I was still a bit angry and I didn't want to
Okay.
kind of lose my rag almost in that respect. So I've kind of calmed down a wee bit. But the disappointment and the anger's still there from both sides, but Celtic especially, because I felt like I've been saying for weeks that I don't believe that we're going to win this title. And then, we went through that tough run of fixtures with Stuttgart away, Rangers away twice, Aberdeen away. And we came through it, and then we beat we beat Motherwell at Celtic Park and played really well. So I kind of allowed myself a wee bit of false optimism or false hope, I suppose, and then they go and let us down. For me, listen, I'm not making excuses because both teams had to play on it, but the pitch is a disgrace. Yeah. Honestly, for a top flight club, that was an absolute disgrace. I know people say about weather being unpredictable, but Celtic, in my opinion, should have made a common sense judgment and tried to get the game even moved across to Dens Park. So I don't know if you've seen the kind of aerial view that I think Sky Sports put on, but basically Dens Park looks like a bowling green compared to Tannadice, and surely it wouldn't have made that much difference to Dundee United had they had the game moved or had they been able to get the game moved. So as I say, just really disappointed, and I think it's gone now for us. I think it's Rangers or Hearts to lose, basically.
Mark.
Gary, come on. You're having a laugh. Move the game to Dens. Come on. Be real.
The pitch
No,
is a
come on.
disgrace, Mark.
Yeah, listen, nobody's
It's a
arguing with
top-flight
that.
club.
Yeah, nobody's arguing with that. It is a disgrace and it's well below the standard that it should be. However, it's up to Dundee United. It might be through choice, a deliberate tactic, if you like, or it might not. However, Dundee United, Jim Goodwin, the player, they do what they need to do to give themselves the best possible chance of winning games. They're not there to produce a surface to suit Celtic or Rangers or Hearts or Dundee. They do what suits them
I get
best.
that,
So, listen, I get your disappointment. You're clearly disappointed. You were still angry last night. But I think you should be focusing on your own team rather than coming up with ludicrous suggestions about moving the game across to Dens Park.
As I say, I get what you're saying, and obviously both teams have to play in it. And listen, I was fully condemnation at Celtic and how we played or the performance we didn't put in because the players were an absolute disgrace on Sunday. And to be honest, if I was Martin O'Neill, I would have had the players standing at that tunnel in front of the fans and let the fans give them stick for another 15-20 minutes, because that's clearly what they needed to for going into this international break, just to let that sink in, just to let that settle in and see how they've let the fans down on Sunday, kind of thing. As I say, I just think with the game being on Sky and everybody watching, especially the way the season's coming to a close and we've got a freeway title horse race, and I just think surely you should be having a better surface than what you've got, to be fair. I thought it was an absolute disgrace.
Andy,
the surface is a disgrace, and I'm sure there are Dundee United fans, and I would say the Dundee United management as well, who are a bit embarrassed about their surface. You only have to look at Motherwell, quite a club with modest resources, and their pitch is superb, and it's just down to a lack of investment. Dundee had a problem with their pitch away over on the far side. It tended to be really waterlogged, some sort of burst pipe. But in any event, they paid for it and they fixed it. So we should have a better surface, but I mean, it's got nothing to do with the game, and the idea of playing anywhere else is just daft, Gary.
What about the players, though? Gary's point, you can't understand how poorly they played. You can't read their mind, Andy, but you were a top player with Celtic. Just win that game, then you've got the international break.
Listen, there's no excuse they played badly, but I mean, as a former Celtic player who played some bad games, it happens. Maybe too many of them on the same day. And I take Gary's point about the very recent slog of away games everywhere, and Celtic did well to come through that. But as Martin O'Neill said, Dundee United deserve to win. So I think at this stage of the season, where you can't really afford a slip up now, could you give Celtic a draw and then win all their other games? Maybe not enough. But the way that everyone seems to be dropping points at the moment, I think that's what makes it fascinating. I don't think you'll get Hearts, Rangers or Celtic. They've all got 7 games to go, and obviously they can't win them all.
Sure.
But Hearts are big favourites. It's theirs to lose.
But you could say if Celtic win their 7 games, Mark, they would be champions.
82. Yeah, Paul, we look at this a lot, and it takes, I'm kind of thinking 80, Mike. 80 could really, it could be as low as 80. If I'm looking at Hearts, so they've got the highest, so they can get to 87. So out of 7 games, that would allow them, to drop 7 points, which is like a defeat and 2 draws out of 7 games. 80 points might win you, because that would mean Celtic would be allowed 1 draw, 6 wins and a draw. Rangers can still get to 84, so that would mean they could have allowed 2 draws out of 7 games. But you're almost looking at Celtic and Rangers definitely need to go unbeaten, if not win every game. Hearts can afford that. I think Paul could afford to lose 2 games out the 7 and still be champions. 80, 84 is probably too high now. I think you're going 80, 82 maximum.
Gary, stay with us. We've got another Gary on the line. Hi, Gary. Gary 2.
How you doing?
Hi, good, Gary.
How you doing?
You're a Celtic fan. Good evening. Welcome to the show. Gary, what are you thinking about your team?
Firstly, there's no excuse for the result. They're rotten now. However, I think it was Mark said there, it was ludicrous to move the game from Tannadice to Dens Park. I find it ludicrous that people think it's acceptable to play on something that looks like a beach.
Yeah.
What's going on there? Get the game cancelled, or move it to another day, or move it to another venue. I don't see why. Does that mean that Celtic can go and just start digging up holes in their park and say, well, you just need to deal with it?
Yeah, they could if they wanted to, but they won't because they want a good surface. And everyone, I think, it's your responsibility to have a good surface. We've seen other clubs having horrible surfaces in years gone by. It's down to a lack of investment, Gary. That's all it is.
You played in that, Andy. What was it? Was it
See,
really
you
bad
can't-
then? Yeah, hold on a second.
I've played on some horrible surfaces, and I have to say, around this time of the year, especially when you've come through a winter and there was so much sand on the pitch, I would say just in a general sense, pitches are better now. You get this, I mean, Motherwell had it some years ago, and then they made an
Dundee
investment.
last 2 seasons ago, Dundee.
And then Motherwell made an investment, and by and large, everyone will tell you, everyone in the Scottish football will tell you, Motherwell's the best surface, better than Ibrox, better than Parkhead. What you see just now is an embarrassment to Dundee United and to Scottish football when you see that aerial shot of the pitch. It just looks dreadful.
It is an embarrassment. And Gary, I'm not saying that it's not unacceptable. The pitch is shocking. Nobody can deny it. Jim Goodwin wouldn't even deny it, any Dundee United supporter. But this. Let's move it to another stadium because it doesn't suit Celtic style. We're getting into the realms of being really ridiculous. Now, it is unacceptable. However, you've got to deal with it. That's what becoming champions is all about. Whether you need to go to an AstroTurf service at Livingston or Rugby Park, you've got to deal with different scenarios, whether it be poor surfaces, injuries, suspensions. You deal with different things. As Celtic have managed to do the past 4 years to become champions, this year it's looking unlikely that they're going to be, but you cannot blame one surface at Tannadice. They've gone to Tannadice early in the season and they've gone to Dens and they've lost. They've gone to Tayside 3 times and they've lost. They've played Rangers in the league 3 times and they've played Hearts in the league 3 times on good surfaces and not won any of the 6 games in the league. There's a stat for you. They've not won any of the 6 games against the top 2 sides in the league. They've had 3 draws and 3 defeats.
Gary?
That's what I said, though. There's no excuses here. I've said they're rotten. They've been rotten for ages. I'm not blaming the park for that result. They've just been rotten.
Who do you blame, Gary, at your club? Barry, what do you feel, Gary, about this season? What's happened? What are they going to do to change this?
I don't know. You need to be signing players and stuff. They've obviously not replaced Kyogo, or they replaced Kyogo with Ida, who they then let go. And it's like a snowball effect. You're keeping guys on that don't want to be there anymore. You're changing guys who have a plan. Then we're not happy with their plan, so we're sacking them. But you've maybe got some players that might have suited their plan. It's just a bit all over the place, and that's why I'm saying that part's not an excuse for how bad they've been. But at the same time, Dundee United should be getting fined or something for that. It's terrible. And see if you can't uphold a park. See if you can't maintain it properly. David Kilmarnock Day and get AstroTurf. Nobody's complaining. I know the AstroTurf's not great, but you're not playing on sand. And that was horrendous.
I wouldn't want any more AstroTurf pitches, Gary. We've already got Livingston. We've already got Livingston. We've got Kilmarnock. We don't want any more Falkirk.
Yep.
We don't want any more AstroTurf. We shouldn't have any, in all honesty. What you want is Dundee United spending a bit of money on their surface. That's all it's down to.
The problem they've got, though, is they've not got the money, though. That's why I'm saying they should get an artificial one. Till then, I remember years ago, Falkirk never got promoted.
Yeah, that's
because
right.
They didn't have enough seats in their stadiums. Yep. So why is that not the same thing for parks? Why are we not going, right, your park's not up to standard, so you're not playing in this league?
Who do you want as manager for next season? What do you think is going to happen? Because everything comes from the top, and Celtic are kind of, the fans just don't know what's happened this season. Dermot Desmond came out
Eh,
after Brendan Rodgers left. What's
I
going
wouldn't be
to
opposed to
change?
the Motherwell guy, to be
Right,
fair.
Bertolascu. Yep.
I quite fancy him. He's quite good.
Mark?
I think he's the overwhelming favourite. He's here. We've all seen the football that Motherwell have played. He's literally on Celtic's doorstep. He's put together a team who have outplayed Celtic, won a game, and the majority of football that they play all season has been very impressive. So the only problem, Gary, is that you cannot read the way Celtic are going as a club. I don't know who's in charge, other than you always say nothing happens there unless Dermot Desmond says yes. But you have no idea where they're going to turn to next.
And Martin O'Neill has been left holding the whole club together. This is what Martin said at full time.
You know, this was always going to be a difficult game for us away here at Tannadice. As I said to you, I think before, I've never had an easy game here, ever. So yes, it's a setback, and as you quite rightly say, at this particular time of the season, you can't really afford to do that. But we're not finished yet.
Mark?
Well, there's no way someone like Martin O'Neill is going to give up. He'll be urging his players. There'll be an internal belief that they can win 7 out of 7. I think that's unlikely, to be honest. But you wouldn't rule anything out for Martin O'Neill. And I feel for him, Paul. You feel for his 74 years of age. He's gone into Celtic twice, and let us say it's now coming home to roost. The decision to effectively sack him in December has been a major faux pas that's going to prove to be costly, I think, come May the 16th. However, the next manager, if it's not to be Martin O'Neill, if he's not to be offered the chance to stay on, and I think he deserves the opportunity to be asked if he would like to stay on another year. If it's not to be him, I think Askew will be in the conversation, but I don't think Askew will get it. I do believe, Paul, that Robbie Keane would be the preferred candidate. I think Robbie Keane is a preferred candidate if he doesn't end up at Spurs.
Of course, which could well happen there.
Askew's in the frame, but I think Keane may well be ahead of him in the pecking order.
Craig Bellamy's name came up last night on the programme. Of course, he's got the playoff later this week for Wales for the World Cup. But Craig Bellamy has also got Celtic connections. Gary, one before you go then, before we head to the break. Well, you've thought for weeks, is it now the Cup you're going to think about? You want to win every single game. Have you written off the league?
Yeah, like personally, I've written off the league, and listen, who knows what will happen when we come back from the international break? But listen, players have still got to try the absolute utmost best, and Martin O'Neill, being the guy that he is, will not let anybody quit on the job, kind of thing. For me, I think I felt really sorry for him on Sunday, because I believe he picked the wrong team, but I believe he didn't really have an option. To not pick the wrong team, because obviously the striker situation, you're just dipping your hand into a bag and pulling names out. I don't know.
Who would you have played?
For me, obviously Shranchara was fit. I don't know what the situation with him is, because
apparently he
was
ill
against Motherwell the week before. Well, yeah, that's a line that's coming from Celtic, so we've just got to take that as gospel. But for me, I'm not too sure, because none of them are good enough. You know, when you look at Dyson Maeda, I don't believe that his head's in the game anymore. I think Junior Adamu obviously came to the club and got that goal against Dundee in the cup, and you know, you thought you might kick on, but for me, none of them's good enough. I'd include Big Shranchara in that, and the fact that he scored mostly only penalties, kind of thing. I don't think he's shown enough. So I feel for Martin in that respect that he's not really got anybody that can fire us to potentially a league title and win our last 7 games. But yeah, I think it's all about trying to get past St Mirren in the semi-final, which will be a tough game in itself. I know they're not playing great with losing Stephen Robinson, but yeah, for me it's going to be a long slog for the next couple of months just to get this season over with, because it's been a great season if you're a neutral, and to be fair, Hearts probably deserve it over the piece, but I just really disappointed in the sense that we done so well getting through that stage, that kind of wee sticky patch. We came through it well and even beat Motherwell and thought, right, we can kick on and win it, and it just fell apart on Sunday. So as I say, just like it's Hearts or Rangers to lose for me now, and obviously hoping, as a Celtic fan, Hearts go on and do the job and finish it off.
Gary too. Have you ever met a neutral? Do you know anyone who's neutral? And listen, I have to tell both of you, the Premiership clubs voted to ban artificial surfaces from season 26 to 27. So that's next year.
That's a good
next
move.
season. So I would agree. Gary too. What's any Scottish Cup? Will that be enough for you if you get it?
It's probably going to need to be, but it shouldn't be. No, you should be winning the league, but I think we're way off it. I think you're sitting there again. I think you have mentioned it before. You're waiting and Hearts winning it so that Rangers don't now because you've ruled yourself out. I suppose you just need to accept the cup if that's the case, but it's nowhere near good enough.
Guys, thanks for your call, and I'll leave you on this one where Danny Rowe was asked at the weekend after the win against Aberdeen, you could go top of the table at the next game.
Yeah, important is that we play for 3 points. For me, it's not so important to be in the next couple of match days ahead. For me, it's important that we on the final match day something to celebrate, and for this we have to be very focused on our own. It doesn't matter what they are doing. If we win the 7 games, we will win the league.
And Andy, as you know, some of that speaks to the fact that if you can play early, play before the opposition, and put the pressure on them if you win your game, and then Hearts play, Rangers play, whatever. If you're
absolutely, if you play on the Saturday and the team you're up against and they lose, if you're playing the Sunday, it gives you a lift. You know, thinking, oh, we could pick up a 3-point gain here. So it works the other way. We're under pressure. We need to match that result, and there is a different tension to it.
Rangers fans, it's your chance. 08 08 17 17 700. That's next.
The Go Radio Football Show with Burger King.
Huge game tonight involving one of the big Glasgow teams, Partick Thistle, in action against Wraith Rovers through there at Kirkcaldy. And
I hope they played better than they did on Friday against St Johnstone. That was a poor showing for the championship, but they've still got a chance if they obviously keep winning. Big one tonight.
Yeah, I see, and you can't blame him. Mark Wilson wants retrospective action against the Hearts player who decked allegedly the Partick Thistle player. It did look as though the elbow. It looked as though the contact was there.
Yeah.
Yep. But we don't have VAR on it. So
you don't have VAR on it. Retrospective action. Okay.
I know it's not going to happen.
There is a compliance officer still, isn't
Indeed, yeah, there is. So it'd be great for Partick Thistle to keep it going for the neutrals, but also as Glasgow's own, be brilliant to see Partick Thistle still very much in the chase.
Yeah, it'll be a tough one tonight. Paul Doug Emery's Wraith Rovers going to get there. Any away games tough. Morton on the road. Thistle on the road at Morton a couple of Fridays ago. Last minute winner. And it'll be tough again for them tonight. But to have any chance of coming straight up as champions in Partick Thistle, Mark Wilson and Alec Rio know that they need to win tonight. Just put a wee bit of heat on St Johnstone. Could well be that they're looking at a playoff, or the Fairland going to have something to say, or Broth have something to say. I mean, you look at the top flight, Paul. I mean, there is no doubt that Aberdeen are sucked right in now. Yeah. They are sucked right in. And if they end up in the playoff place, I would not fancy Aberdeen to get through a playoff. Yeah. I would not. I would fancy Kelly or St Mirren probably, but I would not fancy Aberdeen to get through a playoff, and they may well. Livingston have gone, so it's now Kilmarnock, St Mirren, and Aberdeen who's going to end up 11th spot. I think Dundee are fine, but Aberdeen and Stephen Robinson absolutely lacerated these players.
Yes. Do you blame them?
No, it's a strange tactic nowadays for managers to do that. We often think, or I think back to 2014, Terry Butcher took over Andy's old club Hibs. Yeah. Fairly comfortable, never won a game, and lost to Hamilton in the playoff. And they say that the player switched off by Terry because he was he was having a go at them in public. So it's a dangerous tactic by Stephen Robinson. But you might feel that's the best way to try and get results out of his squad, to give them a boot up the backside. But they are deep in it. There is no doubt about that, which is quite incredible for a club like Aberdeen and the budget that they have to be sucked in like that.
Andy, there's a parallel with Tottenham Hotspur. Big club in England, all that money. They're going down like a stone as well. And Aberdeen, biggest wage bill probably out with Celtic and Rangers.
Yeah, it's remarkable. And the fact that they took so long to get round to appointing Stephen Robinson, I don't know if he was second, third or fourth choice, but he'd certainly shown with St Mirren that he was capable of getting that club into the top 6, obviously then winning a trophy. But, they seem to have their eye on other individuals before they get round to it. And in the meantime, they were still losing games because they didn't have a leader. Players need to know who's in charge. They're involved in it. Dundee, who I was at Tynecastle and we're talking about Hearts, but with Dundee losing, they're only 5 points adrift of that second bottom place. They're still very much involved as well.
It was Aidan Fitzpatrick who went down at the game the other day, and it was Jack Baird of St John St Johnstone was involved in it, and Mark Wilson saying I'd be surprised if he escapes an SFA ban, but we'll see what happens on that one. Mark, who advises Dave Cormack? Because this guy, he's made a lot of money, local now in America, travels to and fro, putting fortunes into Aberdeen. But he seems to be, either he doesn't listen or he's badly advised, is what you'd have to think.
Yeah, it's strange, Paul, because look, it was his call to change from Derek McKinnon. Again, I think the timing was right for the club and for Derek. I don't know, was it 8 years maybe he'd been there, maybe longer. They've been terrific. What Derek inherited to really put them up there, and they won a cup and they were challenging for the title one of the years. I think that Dave Cormack's then gone through a number of managers, whether it be interims or permanents. I think on at least one occasion he tried to get Derek McInnes back.
Did he?
Yeah, and on at least one occasion. I believe that Aberdeen's number one choice this time round was Askew from Motherwell, and Askew made it known that they were wasting their time coming after him, and they've ended up with Stephen Robinson, albeit it should have been done weeks ago. But they've maybe given the German director of football, Fannenstiel, too much say. Who knows? I'll be interested to see how that pans out between him and Stephen Robinson, because it was always German guys that were being linked with the job, and now all of a sudden Stephen Robinson's in. So look, at the end of the day, they just need to get out of it, even if it's by 1 point, Paul, and they finish in 10th spot. They need to get out of it. But I think 35 points will be fine to keep you away from 11th place. So Aberdeen effectively need 2 wins from 7 games, which is, it sounds easy, but it's not.
And here in the West, we're interested in Kilmarnock 2-0 against Livy, and of course on the same day, St Mirren winning 2-1 at Falkirk. So both of them down near the bottom still, but both of them winning.
Yeah, you're getting to the stage now where obviously we're concentrating on the top 6, and those post-split fixtures every week will be fascinating. And it looks as though it's going to be the same. I think we all accept that Livingston have gone, but with Kilmarnock, St Mirren, Aberdeen, Dundee in the bottom 6, all involved in that fight to avoid the playoff, those post-split fixtures are going to be fascinating as well.
What are you thinking at your old club? Who's going to be the new manager? I saw a couple of names mentioned. I'll tell you, Craig McLeish, I'm not saying for the manager, but he did really well at the weekend. I know he spoke well at the Rangers game. I know they lost. But what are you thinking, Mark? Who's it going to be?
He's maybe in the driving seat, Paul. Is it St Mirren Aberdeen next, I believe?
Yes.
So they'll probably think, you know what, give him that
That's
game.
Right.
He's got a result, coming from a goal down, and they've managed to win the game. So probably think, you know what, he deserves it, unless there's an outstanding candidate ready to come in. There's no point in just giving somebody the job for the sake of it. So if they think there's a bit of potential, a bit of momentum, and the fact that they've got Aberdeen, because if St Mirren beat Aberdeen the following weekend, then listen, wow, that's proper. That really is game on. And then they've got a cup semi-final against Celtic. So it looks as though Craig McLeish is in the driving seat. I don't think he'll be the next permanent manager, but it may well be that they allow him to go to the end of the season.
Harry's on, a Scotland fan, saying, look, I love my Scotland games, but I also love the Premier League, and it's a terrible time for the it's not the break, but Andy, there's 2 weeks almost without it, and look at the momentum.
We get it every September, October, November. It happens all the time. I know that a lot of people are frustrated by it, and then you look at the crowds that will go to Hampden to watch Scotland from all over Scotland, of course. They love their international football, and it's a new calendar, and instead of friendlies, you're getting these Nations League games that are a wee bit more competitive, and I don't know if some people are buying into it more than others.
On St Mirren, what about Carl Robinson, Vancouver Whitecaps former coach? I see he's been mentioned last night and today, but St Mirren not ruling out it could be Craig McLeish for the rest of the season.
Yeah, Carl Robinson, not very well known here in Scotland. Paul, but he has a really good CV. He's an impressive coach. There's a relationship there with John Park, the well-known scout who's in at St Mirren. I think they worked at Vancouver Whitecaps together. Carl Robinson definitely in the frame. And if St Mirren decided to go down that route, I could totally understand why, because he's got a really good CV and knows his stuff.
Who's going to be in the trapdoor position? Right, Livy are going to go down. Who's going to be second bottom? What do you think at the moment?
I think St Mirren might fall away. I think
Okay.
Kilmarnock have
Yep.
got a wee bit of something about them. I think with Finlay Curtis going there and being involved in international setup and someone who's just direct who can make things happen, they're on a little bit of an up. St Mirren fallen by the wayside. I'm going to go for St Mirren, who'll finish in the second bottom spot.
Former St Mirren goalkeeper Mark, you're not having that, are you?
No, but I've got my concerns
Yes.
for them. But do you know what?
Yeah.
Paul, I'm going to say Aberdeen. I think Aberdeen are going to get sucked right in.
Wow. They get 18,000, 19,000 every other week. That
Yeah.
counts for nothing, doesn't it? Just shows you.
They can't win games. Football pot. Stephen Robinson. Listen, if there's one guy who can get a tune out of them, it'll be him. But that, they'll be in this week. They'll be in next week. So it'll give him 10, 11 good training sessions to go and work with the guys ahead of the St Mirren game. There's nobody better to come up against St Mirren because he knows them inside out, the strengths and weaknesses. But I just think there's a real nervousness about Aberdeen just now, and I'm not sure that when I look through the squad, I don't know if there's enough character there to go and actually get out of this. Because if they lose to St Mirren, Aberdeen are going to become out with the title race. Obviously, Aberdeen will become the biggest story because they are then properly in it. And I agree with Andy about Kilmarnock with Neil McCann and Billy Dodds. I think they'll get them out. I think they'll get out of it.
Because sometimes, Andy, losing confidence can go. No matter how many good players you've got, how much you're spending, counts for nothing. If it's something almost intangible, that confidence.
Yeah, and you need players who are able to handle a bit
Yeah.
of pressure. We talk about the Hearts, Celtic, Rangers, and winning games and getting over the line. St Mirren, Kilmarnock, Aberdeen, Dundee. I mean, you're looking at 7 games to go. If you can win 3 of them, you'll be safe. And obviously, when it comes after the split and you play against each other, that is great tension in those games, and it's how you handle it.
After the news, we're going to hear about Mikey Moore, who was, I think, the outstanding player in the Rangers game at the weekend. The manager's going to be speaking about him. Your call maybe on him as well. And for Celtic, what about the next manager? Or is it Martin? You'll get a bit of certainty now to say you need to start. What's the budget going to be? You're not going to say that just now. But what is going to happen at Celtic? And for Hearts, wow, you're getting ready for the party at Gorgie Road, where Charlie Mulgrew, who was in that seat last night, he'll be going through there to buy a pint. Hopefully for some of the Hearts fans, if they win it.
Nice one.
And
HEA.
he might have to. 0808 17 17 700. News is next, and then we're back. Hour 2, looking forward to Scotland this coming weekend. The first game, of course, against Japan. Are you off to Hampden this weekend? The Scotland squad are in town getting ready for the preparations for the game, because we're only a couple of months away now from Haiti, of course, then Morocco, and then Brazil. And just one win, Andy, and it could take us to territory we've never been in before, Miami. No, it'd take us into the next section, which would be Mexico.
It seems it would be difficult not to go through to the next phase. There's so many teams in it. But we want to go and we want to win games. I think we will.
See, Sir Kenny is in the papers today saying about Scotland would be crazy not to be offering a new contract to Stevie Clarke, although he's very measured in the article where he's saying, well, but let's concentrate in the World Cup itself. King Kenny, have you ever seen a finer player, Mark, would you say?
No,
Scottish
I mean,
player?
he's got to be the best. The 2 goals always spring to mind. There's the Belgium and Brussels, and then Spain at Hampden against Arcanada, the brilliant goalkeeper from Spain.
Wow.
But great. And of course, Kenny knows what he's talking about when it comes to Steve Clarke. He had him as his assistant at Liverpool, and you look at Steve's record, it's brilliant. In terms of qualifications, this will be the 3rd major tournament. We now want to try and take the next step, obviously. But look, I think, to be fair to the SFA and to Steve, I think it's a really difficult one, Paul, in terms of what do they do? If they can't settle on something, if the SFA don't want to offer, or they can't agree on a deal, or Steve thinks he wants to go, when do you announce it? That's the thing. So I get it. It's far from ideal, but the most important thing is, and whatever happens, the most important thing should override any scenario with the manager, is that we're at a major tournament and there's a job to be done.
Yeah.
And I think the draw has been kind to us, not taking anything for granted. But as Andy says, it's harder to get knocked out than it is to stay in. So let's go.
It's a good line.
let's go and make a go of it, and not taking Haiti for granted.
Yeah.
But what an opportunity when that's given as your opening game to go and get points on the board.
Let's clip that one in there for social media.
This is a really good group of players.
Yeah.
And I don't know if anyone's thinking of retiring or they've had enough of international football after this one, but there's not a great deal coming through. This has been a really good group who have qualified for 3 tournaments, and I think it's going to be really difficult for us to maintain this standard. I mean, you only have to look at the goalkeeping situation. If Craig Gordon was fit, you'd have him in, and he's 43. We're struggling for a goalkeeper. We've had some great years out of Kieran Tierney and Andy Robertson and John McGinn. I think Scott McDominay will be there for a while longer. But there's going to be a natural change in the makeup of the squad after this World Cup.
And I was reading Lewis Ferguson this morning in the papers, and he was saying, Stevie Clarke has got a club culture here, or a culture club. Sort of Kama Chameleon in that one. But he was saying when he saw Scott McTominay in November, obviously over in Italy in a match, he said, I can't wait to we all get back together in March. And that is phenomenal, isn't it?
Yeah.
That sense of the brothers together in the Scotland squad.
You can see that. You don't achieve success, Paul, if you're not pulling in the same direction.
Yeah.
You've got to be, and you've got to create agreement. That's what, one thing I like about Steve Clarke, and he's maybe received 1 or 2 wee bits of criticism in terms of the squad this time, or why is Grant Hantley in it?
Sure.
Grant Hantley in Vertigo is one of his boys, and there's nothing wrong with that. He's got 12 or 14 that he'll hang his hat on, that have been loyal to him, that turn up whether they play or they don't. They're good pros. They're good to have about the camp, and anybody new coming in, they help them settle, they show them the ropes, and he can let those boys run it. So I don't have a problem with that. Having some senior pros, guys that have been loyal, and they have created a really good spirit. You can see it. The SFA, to be fair to them again, over the past 5 or 6 years, have really pushed the boat out in terms of the facilities, getting a full-time chef in, the training ground, the hotel.
Yeah. Bring them
everything.
back into Glasgow.
Because you look through the squad, you've got you've got the vice captain of Liverpool in the squad. You've got boys playing in the Premier League, boys playing in the Serie A. You had the captain of Celtic in the squad. They're used to a certain standard week in, week out, and the core group of players, the kind of leadership group, went to the SFA and said, "You need to up your game. You need to try and get us those small." Yes, they did. Yeah, right. And the SFA responded. Like, for example, when they used to be at the Orium in Edinburgh, they couldn't put their training schedule on until they knew what rugby wanted to do. Rugby were getting the preference, first choice of the training. So all that kind of stuff, the SFA upped their game. They put a lot more money into it, and it's paid dividends.
Wow. Because the attention, remember they were going to take the football to Murrayfield, Andy, a few years ago, because Hampden, needed more investment, and it came.
Thankfully, we got some investment, and Hampden is our home, and I think we've got a group of supporters now who are buying into this team. Maybe there's talk about how we had a lack of adventure in the last European Championships in Germany, and we'll want to improve upon that this summer. But I think we might have a decent tournament. I think we'll certainly get through to the next phase, and then once you get into the knockout stuff, that'll be brilliant.
And I sense that Stevie Clarke knows that be a little bit more adventurous, Mark. He doesn't want to go in and do what we did. I think it was at the Czech Republic.
My one
2 tournaments ago.
Yeah, I genuinely think it's hard to criticise Steve Clarke for what he's achieved as a national manager. Look, it's been absolutely brilliant. My one criticism would be, and I've never really heard him explain it, and it'd be interesting actually to get his views, his thoughts on exactly what was going through his mind. My one criticism would be the approach to the Hungary game, where we needed a win in the final game to have a chance of getting through. And I know, keep it tight, I get that. Hungary were in a similar situation, but the kind of substitutions and things that he didn't do, I was baffled by it. And it looked as though they weren't doing enough in an attacking sense to go and win the game. They obviously wanted to go and win, but he's never explained, okay, here was my thought process. Why? That's my one criticism of him. It was win or bust. And for me, it was though we didn't really have a go that night against Hungary. So you talk about lessons learned, Paul. I think that would be a lesson learned getting into this tournament, which is God, what's
Sure.
3 months away? Less than 3 months
Less than
away.
3 months away.
Yeah.
2.5 months. And of course, in Euro 2020, which happened in 21, was at the Czech game at Hampden. We could have been more adventurous in the first game because we played so well against England at Wembley. But listen, he's taken us to 3 tournaments.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
You can't criticise his methods, and it's just you feel it when we qualified. You feel it around the country. People are so excited, making plans for getting to events, whether it was in Germany for the Euros, now this summer across the United States, Canada, Mexico, if we go far in the tournament. It's a wonderful opportunity for everyone to make lifelong memories.
Are we going to win it? No, you hear that, don't you, all the time in Talk Sport?
When's the final?
And we enjoy Talk Sport. Are we going to win it? And then you hear Jim coming in. Right, really?
But you know, Andy, it's just taking me back there. Andy talking about the feel good.
Sure.
I don't mean I can remember where I was when
Yeah.
we qualified. I was sitting on the couch in the living room,
Right.
and we won the penalty shootout
Yeah.
Yeah.
with
Oh,
David
of
Marshall.
course. Yeah.
And you know, you're up when you
Yeah.
think, Mike, you know, has it been 98? You
Yeah,
know,
it
since we were
was.
last
Yeah,
at a
yeah,
tour. So you
yeah.
think of all the great times, the happy memories, seeing
Yeah.
the Scotland fans in Germany, a couple of summers ago.
Up until the kick-off.
just about everybody seems
But
to
Matt,
be
we all
going
get
to
carried
the
away. Do you
state.
remember that? See, by the
We did.
day of the game,
Yeah, we thought we were going to nick a point
everybody-
against Germany, didn't we? We thought
at-
we're
at
going to go
least-
nick a point. It's
at
the opening
least,
game. The Germans
yeah.
will be nervous,
everyone.
and we were 4 done.
Oh, dear.
But anyway, look,
Yeah.
you have got to learn from those kind of things, and I'm sure the squad will be better. And what's been brilliant as well, look, you see Ryan Christie scoring against Man United on Friday night. John McGinn, exceptional on Thursday night against Leo, and then exceptional again on Sunday afternoon against West Ham. The timing of him just coming back to Scott McTominay scoring last week as well.
Yep.
For Napoli. So we've got good players in Kieras, but like Andy, a genuine concern as a goalkeeping position. That is a proper concern.
Sure. But staying on the positive, does it remind you of an Andy Walker goal? You know, the way that John McGinn he just had the vision to play, to see legs in front of him, but he just saw it. Andy caressed it.
Left foot.
Beautiful
Did that
left
a
peg,
few
isn't it?
times.
Beautiful.
Pity about the right one. That's an old gag. I'm only kidding. But John McGinn, and if you're a Villa fan, you know, you just pray that he's going to be okay now. Scotland fans, obviously, we do as well
Yeah.
for the end of the season. Because it will go crazy. A lot of younger listeners and viewers, because we're on YouTube now, will wonder, they won't know what it's like, a World Cup, but there is nothing like it.
Paul, I remember the
Yeah.
madness of madness. It was
Yeah.
actually pure excitement, but you call it madness now of Ali McLeod and him saying to the press, we'll come back with some sort of medal. I don't know what colour, but
It was a great line,
we
wasn't it?
thought we
Yeah.
were literally going to win the World Cup in '78.
We were on the march with Ali's Army. Everyone
right.
was singing it. It was recorded in at the studio, I remember. And we all got to believe it. Ali, the late Ali McLeod, the manager, was selling carpets, remember, on the telly? The magic carpet to Argentina. It was just...
What did
but-
what was it something when he's like, what's going to be the hardest thing about going to Argentina? So he says it's going to be retaining the trophy 4 years later.
Love his optimism. It's
There you
brilliant,
go.
isn't it?
Dear.
But what is success?
Going through to the next stage,
Going
wouldn't
through.
it? It would be, Andy. It
Well-
would be phenomenal.
And then
Yeah.
depending on who you play,
Yeah.
it might be getting a step further.
Steady taxi for Andy Walker. No, Andy, you're absolutely
Who you
right.
play.
Or just, yeah, for sure. What's that? Just check it back.
But the
What's-
very-
It's a large half. It's a large half.
But
No,
the very
you're
least,
right, yeah.
the very least is
Let's get
getting
through.
the
Oh,
group.
it's
A
got
good
to be,
genuinely,
yeah.
we've got a
Sure.
good chance.
Yeah.
But Morocco, what a team Morocco are. I mean,
Yeah.
Morocco are a top team.
But I promise you, things go wrong. Remember, we went to Italy in 1990. Costa Rica was the first game, wasn't it? I believe.
1-0
And
defeat.
then there was that moment, Andy Roxburgh and Nally up front. Everyone thought it was Ali McCoist, who was the top scorer that season, and it was Alan McInally, who was a really good player as well.
Yeah.
But and then
He played in Germany,
Yeah.
in Munich, in Bayern.
no, he didn't. Did he? No, he was great. He's Celtic, Aston Villa, and Bayern München. The big fella. I worked
Brilliant.
with him in Scotsport for a while as
Aye,
well.
brilliant.
Great lad.
Aye,
Aye,
oh, he's
great.
brilliant,
Great
wasn't he?
lad, big-
Great
Yeah.
striker.
Oh, he's good,
Yeah,
brilliant,
big,
wasn't he?
Very good
powerful
player
player.
too.
Yeah,
Yep,
he was.
sure was. So Scotland, we just can't wait for it. What about up front? Is there a chance of somebody coming in? Because you know we look at it. Shea Adams. It's no harm to anybody. Here's a rider with this. Shea Adams, Tommy Conway, Finlay Curtis, Lyndon Dykes, George Hurst.
Sorry, I'd
Yeah.
like to ask it.
Yeah.
Would you have given Barney Stewart a shout, Andy, just to bring him in and have a wee look at him?
I would give him a shout because I think the best striker in Scotland is Lawrence Shankland. Obviously, he's been injured. He came back at the weekend. If he's fit, I think he's in that squad. He obviously scored a big goal against Denmark to help us get there. But Yeah, it's maybe. I mean, we've got outstanding defenders, absolutely outstanding midfield players, defensive ones, attacking ones. We don't have an out and out goal scorer that we can all recognise. So it's up for grabs as to who might make it for the squad.
I also think, I know some people would have a different opinion, but I was genuinely excited for our chances, Paul. Had Harvey Barnes accepted the invitation, he'd have really brought something different. Because we've got McGinn and McTominay and Lewis Ferguson, all those guys, Kenny McLean, Ryan Christie, all that experience. But Harvey Barnes, you know, is a big game player. You know, he dribbles, he takes players on, and I genuinely thought we were going to get him, but unfortunately it's not to be.
And especially with Ben Gannon Doak being injured.
Yeah, sure.
Because he is someone that gets you on the edge of your seat.
But he's going to be playing for England. Not only has he chosen them, they've chosen him now,
He's
just
done
to
the
probably
squad,
bosh
right.
that one just in case. Gregory's on there saying, "Oh, Big Alan McAllen, did he play in Bayern, in München?"
In Germany.
Yeah, in Germany. Gary's on. Do we need to win the knockout game to reach the round of 16, equivalent of getting out the group stage in the older formats, for it to be classed as successful?
Yeah, it depends who we play.
Yeah.
I mean, if you, I don't know the makeup of who we could play if we finish first, second, or third. It's all so far up in the air. But if you've got a favourable draw, if we win a couple of games and get to play, I don't know, a second or third place team, then you know, we might go as far as that.
I don't know who we would get in the last 32. But the way the kind of section would work out, Paul, the way the draw would go, I think we'd end up with France in the final.
It's the Go Radio Football Show with Burger King. Tuesday night. Yes, we're completely and utterly sober, but looking forward to it. This will just ramp up in the next few weeks, months, early June.
Marvellous.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
And it's great because we're going to come out of whatever happens.
Yeah.
A brilliant title
What a
race.
season. Yeah.
You know, we've got Scottish Cup semi-finals. We've got a race at the bottom to avoid the bottom. You've got a brilliant championship. You know, one tier down, and then we're just going to come out of that. You're right into the World Cup. You're right into the preparations. Couple of friendlies as well.
Yep.
Over in the States, and then you're right into it on against Haiti on June the 13th.
June the 13th. Yeah. It's June the 24th for Brazil, and obviously Morocco somewhere
19th,
in between. I think,
19th.
well done. I knew Mark would know the stats. A few people have been on saying about they liked the chat earlier about the title run in and how many points. And Danny's asking Mark, what do you reckon? 80 or 81? It has fluctuated, and that's not a criticism.
No,
Yeah.
but I'm just thinking Hearts can get to 87.
But nobody's going to win every.
Do you know what? 81, 82, absolutely
nailed.
But yes,
Okay.
but 81 could make you the champions.
Andy, I don't think you'd disagree, would you? Or, I mean, could old club Celtic, can they go on a run now?
I've just got a sneaky feeling it might be less. It might be something like 79 or 80.
Wow.
I'm not convinced they're all going to win, 7 games. Well, obviously they're not to play each other, but to win 6, draw 1, to win 5, I'm not sure. I think the post-split fixtures will just be fascinating.
And Rangers fans will be thinking, it's only inevitable. 7 games. Look at the money shelled out. What, 28 million in the summer? And then another, what was it, in January?
10 or something
10,
like that.
thereabouts. So it's the guts of 40 million. I know they brought in maybe about 10, well, maybe, but it's net spend of over 30 million. And Rangers know, with Olympiacos, with them, their situation, if Rangers win the title, they could go straight into the Champions League.
Yeah.
Well, I think this is the last year, the last season that second place will get access to the Champions League. And I know that's a really tall order to qualify because that route is very difficult. But yeah, I mean, the idea of Celtic or Rangers finishing third, which I think looks likely, no access to Champions League, it's amazing.
Mark, what a chance. It is a pity, we know that. The champions of Scotland should be in the Champions League, but we just don't have enough power in Europe. But what do you feel about it? Just thinking from a Rangers point of view, never a better chance.
Yeah, I mean, this is a chance to go and, get the 40 odd million. That's why the Rangers hierarchy backed the manager to that tune, because they saw the pot of gold on the horizon. They thought, let's give ourselves the best possible chance of winning the title, and then that would open the door to the possibility of straight entry into the Champions League, and that could still happen. So it's all to play for. You know, Hearts have been absolutely fabulous this season. Derek McInnes, you know, don't forget, he's just getting in the door. It's not like he's had 2 or 3 years to build. He's getting in the door and is on the verge of winning a title, building a championship winning team. And there's no doubt Tony Bloom and Jamestown Analytics deserve credit for that. But once you give the coach the players, the coach and the staff have then got to mould a team, get winning mentality. Graham Jones, the sporting director as well, has done a really good job at Hearts. So they've recruited well, and credit to Anne Budge. Sure. So they've recruited well this year. Rangers change of management, get rid of the director of football, and then really back Danny Rule in January. They really wanted Stephen Gerrard. That was a preferred choice, but Danny Rule's come in and he's thought, okay, here I am, and I'm going with it. With a couple of bad results, but he's kept them in it and he's kept them going. They've recruited well, not perfectly in January, but they've recruited well, and the title's in their hands. With 7 games to go, Paul, who would have thought after Russell Martin's 9 or 10 games, league games in charge, that Rangers would have the title in their hands with 7 games to go? And then you look at Celtic, Martin O'Neill, over his 2 spells, has covered up a multitude of sins. And they're still in there.
Yeah, the statue should be going up for Martin O'Neill, whatever happens between now and the end of May. Who's been on here? Kieran and Mark asking, they want an update, because on this programme, about a month ago, Lord Hockey was here, and there's this amazing offer. He'll put 2 million in for every 10,000 sign-ups to the Ticket Alliance Vision for Celtic. So season ticket holders, you were on that night, Mark. So I think we'll ask Willie what the update is.
Yeah.
How many are getting involved? Because the fans need a say. There's absolute silence coming from Celtic. Can silence come?
They need a say on what?
About the club. Well, they want to buy some shares in the club,
right?
So that the club
you've already got a lot of shareholders. I mean, I'm all for this, but I'm just at what do they have a say on?
Well, at the moment, there's silence at Celtic, isn't there?
Yeah.
You've got discontent fans, and it's a terrible look. Plus, it's not. I mean, the director should go at full time on Sunday. Somebody was on last night, not happy about it, and saying, "Well, so they should at full time just go back downstairs to the director's room." But look, we'll invite Willie to come back on and find out what's happening with the Season Ticket Alliance. Because Mark, you were on that night, and this would be a breath of fresh air. That I think it's trying to bring people at the club together.
Yeah, but Paul, at this moment in time, you know, Willie Hockey's plans, Lord Willie Hockey, etc., Celtic Collectives, and anybody else that wants to get involved, that's all well and good with the best of intentions. But until, you know, if you're wanting to say, until Dermot Desmond or Ross Desmond are actually, you know, willing to come to the table, them, you know, as the majority shareholder, main shareholders, whatever the correct title is. And I know it's fine, Michael Nicholson's there, Brian Wilson's there as interim chairman, but Dermot Desmond is a man. Dermot Desmond is the man. Are they actually going to get round the table and have discussions to try and take Celtic forward? I don't know. I really don't know. I think it's unlikely. There's no doubt the club, you know, there's been mistakes made, Paul, a lot of big mistakes in the last year or so. I also think as well, some of the demands of the supporters are unrealistic, and they need to. I think they need to review some of the demands. You know, because I think probably one or two demands would be off-putting for getting around the table. So I would say rein it in a wee bit. The foundation of what they're saying, I think, is right. There needs to be change at the club, and there needs to be a willingness to accept that, and a willingness to try and move forward and improve things. But I also think as well that the fans just need to just rein it in a wee bit. But ultimately as well, I don't know what Andy thinks. There's a big moment coming, Paul, off the park, and that is when the season ticket renewals go out, and it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. That's going to be a real measure of where the 53,000 season tickets holders stand on what they think the future of the club is looking like.
I think, just in a general sense, Celtic as a club would do really well to get rid of their arrogance and their condescending tone when they speak to supporters. And I know they've got some difficult supporters to deal with, but I think by and large, and you saw it at the AGM, the arrogance and the condescending tone, I think that shone through, which has been going on for far too long.
I think Willie's point on the show here was, he said, if you don't have harmony at a club or a company, you've got no chance. So it's to try to get a block. There's 54,000, as you mentioned, season ticket holders. If they register for this, doesn't cost them anything. He's going to put the money up. That would be 10 million. He doesn't want a say in it at all, but at least you've got a block of people. And then maybe in time they got on the board or whatever, but it's to get harmony at Celtic, who've fallen so badly.
Yeah, I mean, what were we just saying 5 minutes ago about Scotland? You're talking about
Yes.
Lewis Ferguson speaking to Scotland.
Yeah.
Part of the success is because everybody's pulling in the same direction. When there's a togetherness, it doesn't guarantee anything, but it gives you a better chance of being successful. There's not been a togetherness this season with Celtic for various reasons, and they are where they are, and that's partly because of that.
And at Rangers, Andrew Calvin is there having pints of Tennent's Lager, I think, a pint with the fans. But it is all
Are
part of
other
that
lagers
PR.
available?
Indeed, but you can't beat Glasgow's own, can you? All right. 0808 17 17 700. We're back in a moment.
The Go Radio Football Show with Burger King.
We've got a great double act here tomorrow night. We're going to have Craig Moore and Peter Grant. I'm just not funny,
why
am I?
not?
But I don't know why I smile. And Mark thinks, what's he thinking? Yeah, they'll be here tomorrow night, so we're looking forward to hearing Oz and Peter Grant. Do you and Peter still meet up at times? And
Yeah, we had a coffee recently, talking all the rubbish of the day, mostly from
Yeah.
Peter, it has to be said.
who pays?
Yeah. Peter pays.
Peter pays.
Yeah.
Mark, just a few of the comments coming in. Some of the Rangers fans, they want to talk about Mikey Moore, so let's do that. 0808 17 17 700. Man of the match at the weekend in the game, the 4-1 win over Aberdeen. Here's his manager
I
afterwards.
think conversation is always there, but we know when Mikey performed like this, you can see Mikey enjoy to playing for Rangers. The fans love him. I like him. He is a key player. I think there's a lot of good things why we could go again together, but we know it's still not our player. Let's work in the next couple of weeks in all these directions. But the most important is that we bring good results in the next 7 games, and then we will see.
Andy, we love entertaining players. You were. He's the kind of player you would want to go and see.
I think anyone who's prepared to pick up the ball and whoever's in front of him, he wants to take him on. Doesn't matter what area of the pitch. He'll happily go left, he'll go right. He seems comfortable in every area of the pitch, whether it's left, right, or even central. But he makes things happen. He changes the whole picture for everyone. And as soon as you go past a player, strikers love it. What do I do? What's my run? What does he want me to do? And he's an exciting player. And I wish we had someone Scottish who was, I mean, I know that James Forrest has had a brilliant career, but just someone who's prepared to go and take players on, and it makes such a difference.
And Celtic didn't come close much, but he almost made a goal for Celtic when he was on in the second half.
Yeah.
Mikey Mick Moore, is there any Scottish in there we can get?
I don't think so, Paul, which is unfortunate because he'd certainly been the Scotland squad if he was. But at the moment, he gets you off your seat. And, you know, if Rangers are going to win the title, if they're going to pull it off in the next 7 games, he's going to have an important role to play. You know, when you think about it, I've just enjoyed seeing his development. Don't forget, he was part of the Russell Martin / Kevin Thelwell recruitment process. I think he did look like a wee boy when he arrived. Bear in mind, I think he was 17, just turned 18. But now he looks like a seasoned pro. He doesn't look like a wee boy. You know, he looks like a proper footballer who can actually make a difference. And he is making a difference to the Rangers team. The fans love him. The players have got confidence when you see it because they want to give him the ball. I love the way he lifts his head as well. He's not just like a headless chicken and you know, using his pace and his trickery. He actually lifts his head and picks a pass. He's a goal threat. So yeah, he's coming onto that vein of form, Paul, at the perfect time in the season for Rangers.
Will they get him? That's the thing, isn't
Permanently?
it? Yeah.
No. He's
not even for next season.
Another
loan.
Another
Sorry,
loan.
yes.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt that could be on the table. Look, there's a lot. Obviously, there's a lot of unknowns at Spurs right now. So it's going to be, if they were to get him, I think it would be a last minute one. You know, because Spurs have a new manager. They might be in the Championship. Who knows? But I don't think there's any doubt if Mikey Moore was offered the chance to come back, if the clubs could agree something, another loan for a year, I think he would take it. And Rangers will be doing everything in their power to go and make it happen. And it would be a great coup for Rangers if they could get him back to the club for another year's loan next season.
You know what's going to happen soon, Mark? We're close to April, just a week away. We'll talk about players of the year. And I'm just thinking, will his name come into it? Mikey Moore?
But I've not thought long and hard about it. What I would say is, for the PFA Young Player of the Year award, I would imagine Mikey Moore would have to be right up there. I mean, I can't think right off the top of my head.
Yeah,
in terms of the football writers, the football writers is the Young Scottish Player of the Year. So you're only eligible for it if you're Scottish. But he's got to be in the run.
I mean, off the top of my head, I'm looking at Hearts top of the table, and I think of Braga. I think of Devlin. Kizaridis, maybe not so much him.
Been a wee bit quieter, hasn't he?
Rangers, who's been their best player. Mikey Moore is certainly one. Chermiti is the one who gets the headlines for the big goals, but
not consistent.
Not over the course of the season. For Celtic, maybe Nygren because of his goals, but
second top scorer in the country.
No one who's been outstanding. Motherwell, you've got Maswanise.
Top scorer.
You might have just. I think Slattery has been terrific. I don't know whether the likes of Stephen O'Donnell, Paul McGinn have been up there, but they're the ones that you just look at off the top of your head. I think it would go to someone like Braga, especially if he is involved in the next number of games that sees them get over the line and win the title.
What a story that would be, Mark, for say Stephen O'Donnell, who did so well for Scotland. Kilmarnock as well loved him. Or Paul McGinn, captain of the club in this one of their best seasons in the last decade.
Yeah, and again, Stephen O'Donnell and Paul McGinn, the captain, part of a defensive lineup that have the best defensive record in the country. Still only conceded 23 goals. So they've done their job superbly well. Stephen Welsh on loan from Celtic's been a part of that too. So I mean, they can be very, very proud of what they've achieved. I would imagine with 7 games to go, Motherwell will go high into the 60s in terms of the points that they accumulate for this season, which is quite terrific. And then, of course, come the end of the season, will the manager stay? Will he want another crack at it to go and build on it? Will they be able to keep those top 5 players that they have when they have the potential of getting in the region of £15 million for the 5 of them? So when you look at all that,
transformational for the club.
It'll be a really interesting summer at Motherwell.
And of course,
Falkirk are another great
Barney
story.
Stewart,
And Barney Stewart, of course. I mean, just playing university football, making that leap. It's just brilliant to listen to and to see him play, of course. And he's had such a big impact in the team.
Yeah, it's qualifying with Magnum cum laude, wouldn't it be? I don't know why I said that. From university, Mark. It's some story, though, isn't it? Yeah.
Great.
You went straight into the University of Life. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sunday Mail.
With 4 O levels.
Yeah.
Barney Stewart, brilliant. And he comes across really well. Very, very modest, very humble. Credit to John McGlynn, getting a tip off. He goes to watch him at Heriot Watt, brings him in, puts him at loan, brings him back, puts him into the team. So the way that John McGlynn and his staff have managed him is terrific. They've managed him spot on. They know what's going to make the boy tick. The boys responded to how they want to manage him, and they're reaping the rewards. And I mean, I'm talking about the Scottish football writers, Young Player of the Year award. You've got to be Scottish for that. I would imagine it's hard to see past Barney Stewart for our award.
Yeah, Colby Donovan at Celtic.
He's been really good in it right back. He has, but striker's always going to grab the headlines, as Andy knows, as Andy's well aware. Sometimes it's not merited, but they do grab the headlines. But Barney Stewart, he'd be a worthy Young Player of the Year.
Handy Andy on target, that was always a favourite.
Was it one of those DJ and a spinner? You still always
green for goal.
Yeah. Barney Stewart 17 goals so far, and it's so close to being 18, wasn't it, the weekend when he hit the post? So, right, we're talking there about Mikey Moore. People want to see great players, but one of the things that Danny Rowe said afterwards, he thought all round this was a great team performance and win on Saturday.
Yeah, general, I think the first thing is that we are strong as a group, as a team, and then you can bring also the individual performance on. I think we had a lot of good individual performance, but for me it was more what the team delivered. And I'm honest, yesterday we played 11 against 11. And when you look then to both teams, then I'm honest, it's not sure who is the starter and who is on the bench. And that helps. You have to be on front foot to come in the squad. You have to be very aggressive, and you have to play with a high intensity to be a starter. And this increase our limit at the moment, our performance, to be ready for the weekend. And if you do this again and again, and we can bring both together, results and performance, then we have a really strong team. And I say this with a big belief. If we perform this 7 games, we can all win 7 games. But it's still a long way. Yeah. And if you perform not on 100%, then it could be tough. And this is what we have to avoid. Yeah, we have to be on front foot. For me, it's important that we come healthy back now from the international break, and then we go again.
Andy, 11 versus 11, you wouldn't know, which one was the top team.
Honestly, you don't need to be 100% to win. Hearts weren't 100%, and they won 1-0 at the weekend. They've won 4 on the bounce at home, 1-0. They're 100% committed, but they're not playing great football. And they're handling the pressure. They're handling 1 or 2 setbacks during the game. They're still going for it. These are the type of qualities that you've associated with Celtic over the last number of years when they've been so successful.
Mark, what are you thinking there about the manager speaking about the whole of the team? I mean, Tour Romans deserves a mention as well.
Yeah, he's been great. Yeah. I remember, I think I said, Paul, I was told by a scout, not a Rangers scout, someone else who'd looked at him and said, he is a machine. A machine. Mm-hmm. That's how he described him. That's how he summed him up. And you see him getting up and down there, popping up with that goal at the back post against St Mirren last week. He's just added a great energy to Rangers and that real desire. He's a hardy player as well. Not a dirty player, but a hardy player. You'd fancy him at any 50-50. Great engine up the path. Another one who lifts his head as well. So, when you look at him, you look at Chikwani, really finding his feet in the middle of the park. Nadiri's not been explosive, but I think he's been very competent. I think he's played a part. Scove Olsen's been the one who's probably been the disappointment, as in, he arrived a bit of a fanfare, and you thought, this is a bit special. By the way, it might still be. He could be the main man.
Barry said he spoke to him on Sunday. Games. He's feeling better. He wasn't well last week.
So it could be, but certainly one thing's for sure. Paul, you talk about trying to bring players in and obviously help you be successful and then look to move them on. Romans is a guy that can tick both those boxes, help Rangers be successful and then move them on in a couple of years' time for a right fat fee.
Chikwani is impressive, isn't he, Andy? They're beginning to get the nucleus of a good team.
Yeah, they are. I think you can see it. I think sometimes you get a wee bit of a drop off. But the fact that honestly, I got it wrong. I had written Rangers off after that start to the season. I thought there's no way they'll recover. I was thinking that Celtic will go on their usual run of consistency, and Hearts at that time were flying high. I'd written Rangers off, but my goodness, they're right back in it, and only 3 points behind Hearts, and they still have them to play.
Mentality that was mentioned. It was annoying Danny Rule, as it would a few weeks ago when people said, the 2 games with Celtic when, they didn't win either of them and they went out the cup in the second one and the manager was getting a bit irked and we could see that. I think he got it wrong. I think we've said this a few times, to take on Martin O'Neill in a verbal joust. Martin O'Neill had nothing to do with it, but they seem to be back on track. Consistency, can they have that between now so that they lift the title?
Well, the only thing that we know about is they could.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. Sure. The way things have been going this season, can Rangers go and win their last 7 games in a row, as Danny Rule says, 7 cup final? I think it's unlikely, but it's not impossible. It's not impossible, although I think it's unlikely. But I do think they can become champions. Danny Rule, get a bit of flack in the back of the sort of double header against Celtic, but it wasn't just that, Paul. It was a away game at Motherwell, the away game at Livingston. It was dropping points to them. They beat St Mirren, job done. But the performance wasn't great at all. But they won the game. That's what it matters, particularly away from home. And they've then kicked it on to have a good performance against Aberdeen and won the game comfortably. So at the moment, right now, with 7 games to go, Rangers they've every right to feel confident. They've every right to believe that they can go and win the title. And I'm sure, again, we talk about lessons learned. I'm sure Danny Rule would have learned a lot from his pre-match comments to Celtic the first time round before the league game. I'm sure he'd have learned a lot. So as they go into we are at the business end when we come back next week, 7 games to go. His pressers are going to be important as well. His messaging, what he says, how he says it, is going to be really important. I'm sure he will have learned from that.
And they survived that moment. They were 2 up against Aberdeen, but remember, Aberdeen scored 2-1. It could have been, difficult for them. That Geiger counter could have counted for Aberdeen, but it didn't. They had the mentality to go on. And what with the goal from Tavernier right at the end?
Yeah,
it still strikes him.
Yeah, he still got it, and I don't know if he still divide opinion amongst the Rangers support. A lot of people are not having him, don't want him as captain. They've seen enough of him, not successful enough. But I think he's been a terrific professional. And then when you listen to Barry Ferguson talking about him, getting to know him a bit better when he was in there as manager for a short time, telling you what a great professional he was. I think he's been outstanding value for Rangers over the years.
Do you know what? We're no one here to pick favourites as in favouritism. But if there's a guy who deserved to be a champion for what he's contributed and the stick that he's taken, because every time it'd go wrong for Rangers, they'd accuse a lack of mentality, or they blow it under Philippe Clement or whatever it may be. James Tavernier was always a number one target for abuse from his own supporters.
The whipping boy.
Yeah, he was. So if there's one guy who would, because this may well be his last 3 months as a Rangers player, he may well be going out and he'll want to go out a champion. If there's one guy who would deserve that, it would be him.
What do you think? We'll find out just after this.
The Go Radio Football Show with Burger King.
It sure is. Young players in the game. That's what we want to see more. Scottish young players. It was some weekend, wasn't it, for Nico O'Reilly of Man City getting the 2 goals against the Arsenal.
Brilliant. As stage to do it as well. Wembley, full house. It's such a tight game, but I think City deserved it. And what a moment for the young lad.
Could it be somebody in the Scottish Cup final when it comes up? I know that was the League Cup final. Could it be Dunfermline who'll be there? Is it somebody from Falkirk? Is it St Mirren? Is it Celtic? It's still a lot to play for.
Two great ties, Paul. April 18th, April 19th. Falkirk, Dunfermline going head to head on the Saturday. An incredible rivalry between both clubs. I mean, I don't like to use the word hate, but they absolutely detest each other. Both sets of supporters. So that will add an extra edge to it. I'd imagine you're going to get 30,000 at Hampden. So you've got John McGlynn and his staff there with Falkirk, top flight team who are going to get into the top 6 against Neil Lennon's Dunfermline, who just battered Aberdeen away so comfortably in the last round, looking to get into the playoffs. Then you get Celtic St Mirren. Celtic will try to recapture the form lost in the cup final under Wilfred Nancy, and it could be Craig McLeish, it could be someone else in charge of the team. So look, all to play for, but could you imagine a Celtic Dunfermline final? Martin O'Neill and Neil Lennon leading out both teams in a cup final at Hampden on May the 23rd. What odds would you have got for that a year ago?
Wow. You'd have to get the cameras on, the manager watch Andy as well. 2 volatile Irishmen.
Well, 2 guys that have enormous respect for one another, and it would just be remarkable were Dunfermline to do a championship side. They're way off the pace in terms of getting up, but they could get in the playoffs, which if they get into the Scottish Cup final, gives them a big problem.
Yeah, or John McGlynn. What a season for... I mean, we know, gone from the 3rd tier to the 2nd tier last year, the top tier. And they're almost certainly top 6 over there.
He's been great, John McGlynn, and when you see him being interviewed, win, lose or draw, his heart's in his sleeve. He just speaks so honestly, just loves his football, loves Falkirk, a great affection for the club, what he's built there, what he's achieved there, and the Falkirk fans love him, and genuinely, out the 2 semi-finals, the Falkirk Dunfermline one is the one that I'm most looking forward to. I think that's going to I think that's going to be an absolute cracker on the Saturday afternoon.
I think we'll go to both of them, Mark. It'd be great, wouldn't it? Saturday and Sunday.
We'll just stay over.
Exactly.
We'll just stay over.
You'll have us in Hampden Hospitality, of course, who with Barclays, who sponsor the business show.
Did they do B&B?
Yeah, I'm sure for you, Mark, there'll be no chance.
B&B, Barclays B&B.
What a season it has been. Wonder who. So I've got a sneaky suspicion. I think Neil Lennon does watch at times, but Falkirk, could their name be on the? It could be on the cup.
Yeah, when you see St Mirren, handling the big occasion at Hampden, beating Celtic, I think they've shown the way.
What do you like about them? They're a footballing team. They play.
St Mirren, Falkirk.
Yeah, it was Falkirk. Yeah.
Falkirk, yeah. Well, the management, the leader, and obviously I've got a great affection for his number 2, Paul Smith.
Yeah.
And obviously our old friend Stephen McGinn, who's learning there. They were talking about him for the St Mirren job. I think it's maybe a bit early for him, but great that he's getting that recognition. No, you just love the way they play, they set up. And the story, I mean, coming from the League One, Championship, Premier League, Premiership, and some of those players playing in all 3 leagues. Cole Donaldson, for example, it's just a great story.
Signing Brian Graham in the summer. You're going from Brian Graham, who's been round the block for 20 years, playing in the Championship last season, manager of the women's team at Partick Thistle. And John McGlynn says, I see something in him. I see something in him that he can bring to my squad in the top flight, which is brilliant. It's great to get. And then Brian Graham responded. And then the flip side, the exact opposite, is a young man like Barney Stewart starting his way in the game, and what he's learned from Brian Graham, as well as the coaches, to be banging in goals, as you mentioned. What was it, 17 goals he's on, which is brilliant. When you think about it, a lad at university a couple of years ago into our top flight and been spoken about as a contender to go to the World Cup. It's what a story it is.
So we started talking about who's going to win the title. It's swung again. This is in the eyes of the bookies. They're saying Hearts, the favourites, then Rangers, then Celtic, and that's exactly how it sits at the moment. Rangers are second now, leapfrogging Celtic on 61, Rangers 63, Hearts on 66. It's kind of uncharted territory for Martin O'Neill in his time at Celtic. So, defeat at Tannadice at the weekend. He spoke about the game afterwards.
Well, I think that the first goal was going to be vital in the game. We probably didn't create enough, and maybe didn't adjust, particularly in the second half, to conditions. But that's taking nothing away from Dundee United. They deserve to win.
Sure, he referenced the conditions, but he didn't dwell on it. And so what's next?
The very obvious thing to improve is we've got to create more chances and we've got to take them. That's one of the hardest parts of football. It is, But teams up and down the country feel that's it. That's very, very important. It's important to try and create chances. And the very natural thing, ultimately, is to put the ball in the net.
Lauren's on, a Celtic fan, saying never write off Martin O'Neill.
No, you never write him off. I think the big problem that Martin O'Neill has got to deal with is he mentioned it there, the goal scoring. And you go as far back as Kyogo, not replacing him, not replacing Adamida, even the creativity that you would get from Nicholas Coon, from Matt O'Reilly, and just their goals as well as their creativity. Celtic have been well short.
The South Korean coach, Mark, I see he's been stunned by the improvement in Yang this season. So, people have been really impressed by him.
Yeah, he's been at Celtic for a couple of years. He really split opinion. A lot of fans when they haven't. I get that, but absolutely, Paul, Martin O'Neill has been a driving force. And Yang. We talk about, Andy was talking about players taking them on and being direct. We're talking about Mikey Moore. Yang's done that because he's been encouraged to do it. Look, stop the easy option, just play a pass. Go and take your full back on. Go and give it a bash. Go on, you're strong, you've got a bit of pace, you've got an eye for goal. The goal they scored against Rangers in the New Year fixture, albeit it was for nothing, but it was an outstanding goal. Martin O'Neill encouraged them to go and do that. And as he says there, that if Celtic are to be anywhere near the title come May the 16th, they're going to need Yang and Taneke and Maeda to go create chances and then find somebody to put them away.
And Yang, there was that moment in that game where he was encouraged to play the ball back the way, but no, he just went for it. But for Celtic, your final thought before, because it's the international break now, they're going to get a bit of a break, a week or so. I think all the teams will be, unless you're on international duty, and Celtic don't have
I
that
think
many.
Celtic probably need it more than most, given the schedule that they've had. They'll enjoy a bit of a downtime. I'm sure most of them will find a bit of sunshine somewhere. And then it's coming back and being able to handle every game. Every game is difficult, and it might just take 6-7 wins out, 6 out of the 7 games left to win to give yourself a chance. But just fascinating to see it unfold, and very refreshing to see Hearts up there and how they handle the pressure. So far, every question that's been asked of them, they've answered it, and they are favourites at this stage for a reason.
the fans a good welcome for you at the weekend, Andy, because you're a former
At the
Hibs player.
Hearts?
But the Hares.
They love me there just as much as they love me
Oh.
elsewhere.
And Mark, the break for everyone just now. So for Rangers, I sense that Rangers would love to have just played this weekend as well. Then, given that performance last weekend, but a bit of sunshine for them as well, individually, the players.
Yeah, I'd imagine if you're not involved in international duty, Paul, you'll get a few days off. Likewise with Celtic, likewise with Hearts. So the great thing for Derek McInnes was getting Shankland and Devlin back at the weekend, so they'll get another good 4 or 5 sessions under their belt before their game next week against Livingston.
Partick Thistle to win tonight, Andy?
Yes.
Yes, Mark?
A draw.
Oh, a draw. Thank you, Mark. There we are. Right at the end, he had to. Mark, Andy, thank you so much.
Always a pleasure, Paul.
Tomorrow night,
Thank
Peter
you.
Grant will be here along with Craig Moore. Thanks to everyone who's on tonight. Thanks to you for tuning in as well. We're back tomorrow night at 5.